Typhoon Mitag, due to hit the southern coast on Thursday. With winds close to 90 kilometers an hour, it's expected to cause serious damage. 2 more cases of African swine fever confirmed in South Korea. More than 90,000 pigs culled so far to contain the disease as the authorities look for the source. And North Korea launches another missile, this time from a submarine. It's a technology the regime's long been trying to perfect and comes with denuclearization talks due to restart soon. It's 4:00 p.m. here in Seoul. Thanks for tuning in to our afternoon newscast. I'm Devin Whiting. Typhoon Mitag is on its way to Korea, bringing heavy rain and strong winds. The southern parts of the country are already getting up to 50 millimeters of rain per hour. Our Ji-young has the latest.
Torrential rain and strong gusts of winds are to lash South Korea as Typhoon Mitag is expected to hit the country around Thursday. According to the Korea Meteorological Administration, the mid-strength typhoon will reach the South Korean mainland on Thursday and will pass over the country's southern regions. The weather agency says as of 9 a.m. on Wednesday, the storm was about 230 kilometers northeast of Shanghai, China, and is moving north towards South Korea's southernmost island of Jeju. By 9 p.m. on Wednesday, Mitag is projected to be roughly 110 kilometers off Jeju Island, and it is forecast to reach Mokpo in Jeollanam-do Province by 3 a.m. on Thursday. It is then expected to pass by the southeastern city of Daegu on Thursday morning and continue towards South Korea's easternmost island of Dokdo. The typhoon will have winds of up to 86 kilometers per hour by the time it reaches South Korea. A typhoon warning has been issued as of 9:30 a.m. on Wednesday for Jeju Island, which is currently getting up to 70 millimeters of rain per hour, accompanied by thunder and lightning. According to an expert at the National Weather Agency, Typhoon Mitag is expected to be as strong as the recent Typhoon Tapa, which resulted in 2 deaths and more than 30 injuries, as well as flooded homes and power outages.
Typhoon Mitag is projected to have a stronger influence on the Korean peninsula than the last Typhoon Tapa because it will come directly over us.
Serious damage is expected, so the expert advised people to take precautions.
The typhoon will pack strong winds at an average of 61 kilometers per hour as it passes through the Korean peninsula. This is strong enough to damage things like streetlights. The typhoon will also bring torrential rain to Jeju and the southern coast of Korea, so residents in those areas are advised to take extra precautions against landslides and flooding.
The expert added it's very unlikely the typhoon will make a major change of course. Ji-young, Arirang News.
North Korea launched another missile this morning into the East Sea. This was the regime's 11th launch this year, and it was likely fired from a submarine. Kim Ji-yeon has more.
South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff has confirmed that North Korea fired a ballistic missile from waters near the eastern port city of Wonsan in North Korea's Gangwon-do province. The missile was fired in an easterly direction at 7:11 a.m. Wednesday. The maximum flight altitude was some 910 kilometers, and the flight distance was around 450 kilometers. The Joint Chiefs identified the launch as a Pukguksong-type missile. During an emergency meeting, the National Security Council voiced grave concerns, saying the North may be developing a submarine-based ballistic missile at a time Pyongyang and Washington are preparing for working-level talks. Submarine-based ballistic missiles are believed to be more threatening than missiles fired from land since a launch site is harder to detect in advance. It's believed the North is developing a Pukguksong-3 missile and submarines of more than 3,000 tons, and that the recent launch could have been planned in advance regardless of progress on denuclearization talks. The North had fired Pukguksong-1 missiles 3 times from submarines in 2016 and fired a Pukguksong-2 missile from land in 2017. Rather than 1 missile, Japan-based NHK reported that the North launched 2 ballistic missiles on Wednesday. Citing Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga, it reported that one of the missiles landed outside Japan's exclusive economic zone in the East Sea, and the other one landed near Shimane Prefecture. On the discrepancy between the Joint Chiefs and Tokyo, it's believed the missile may have separated in midair. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Now, just hours before it fired that missile, North Korea had said it will resume working-level talks with the U.S. in the coming days. Shortly after the North's announcement, Washington confirmed the talks are indeed on. Lee Seung-jae reports.
Citing its first Vice Foreign Minister, Choi Sun-hee, North Korea's state-run Korean Central News Agency reported Tuesday that Washington and Pyongyang have agreed to hold preliminary contact on Friday before holding working-level negotiations on Saturday. Che did not mention where the talks will be held, but said the North is ready to talk and expects some positive developments. U.S. State Department spokeswoman Morgan Ortagus later confirmed North Korea's statement, saying officials from the two sides plan to meet within the next week. She also refrained from elaborating about the specifics, such as the location for the talks. Also reacting, South Korea's presidential office of Cheongwade said it welcomed the scheduled resumption of talks. In a text message to reporters on Tuesday, Cheongwade spokesperson Go Min-jung said Seoul hopes the talks will lead to both sides making practical progress at upcoming working-level negotiations for the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and the establishment of lasting peace. The upcoming talks will be the first nuclear talks between Pyongyang and Washington since the second North Korea-US summit ended early in Hanoi in February due to differences over the North's denuclearization measures and sanctions relief from the U.S. Hopes for a resumption of their talks started to emerge after President Trump fired his hawkish U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton last month, widely seen as a conciliatory gesture by Trump. However, watchers say it remains to be seen whether the two sides can make substantive progress this time, given they still seem far apart over the scope of the North's denuclearization, its disarmament method, and what compensation it could receive from the U.S. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The U.S. has reiterated that China should do more to implement economic sanctions on North Korea to make the denuclearization talks more productive. Assistant Secretary of Defense for Indo-Pacific Security Affairs, Randall Schriver, said this at a security forum in Washington on Monday, adding that there's been some slippage in sanctions enforcement. Schriver said the U.S. is willing to work with China to strengthen those enforcement efforts. He also touched on Seoul's decision to end its military information sharing pact with Tokyo, saying that tensions between Washington's allies will only benefit North Korea, China, and Russia. Schriver said the tensions are spilling into trilateral security work in an unhelpful way, but security interests will ultimately bring the three back together. South Korea's National Assembly has started its annual audit of government ministries and their affiliated agencies. For the next 20 days, 14 parliamentary committees will inspect hundreds of different entities. There will be a second round of audits involving 3 other committees starting later this month. This year's audit is expected to be especially contentious since it'll be the last under this iteration of the National Assembly, and it comes ahead of next year's general elections. In the spotlight the first day was the Defense Committee, where lawmakers grilled respective ministry officials on North Korea's firing today of what's believed to be a submarine-launched ballistic missile. In other committees, lawmakers are questioning officials over the corruption and fraud allegations surrounding Justice Minister Cho Guk and his family. Also, progress on the denuclearization talks between North Korea and the U.S., as well as South Korea's trade conflict with Japan. Two more cases of African swine fever have been confirmed in South Korea in the past 24 hours. The number of confirmed cases is now 11. And to stop its spread, the authorities will soon have culled more than 100,000 pigs. Won Jung-hwan reports.
2 new cases of African swine fever were confirmed Wednesday by South Korea's Agriculture Ministry. A first suspected case was reported on Tuesday at a pig farm in Paju, a city close to the inter-Korean border, and their test results came back positive before daybreak on Wednesday. And just before noon on Wednesday, another case was confirmed in the same area, bringing the total number of confirmed cases of African swine fever to 11. Paju is where the first case was confirmed roughly 2 weeks ago on September 17th. As for the countermeasures being taken by authorities, as of 3:30 a.m. Korea time on Wednesday, a 48-hour movement ban was enforced for all pigs in Gyeonggi-do Province, Incheon, and Gangwon-do Province. Officials hope the move will prevent the further spread of the deadly animal disease as they continue to search for the source of the virus. South Korea has called more than 90,000 pigs so far to prevent the further spread of the disease. But with the latest case, the number will increase to more than 100,000. That's nearly 1% of all pigs in South Korea. African swine fever is highly contagious and nearly 100% fatal to swine herds. There's no vaccine for the disease, but it does not affect humans. So far, cases in South Korea have mostly been concentrated near the border with North Korea. 원정환, 아리랑 뉴스.
Yet another forecast of economic growth in Korea coming in much lower than the government's projection. The Macroeconomic Research Office of the ASEAN Plus 3 group, known as AMRO for short, has forecast South Korea's economy to grow this year by 2.1% and next year by 2.2%. That compares to the government's forecast, respectively, of 2.5 and 2.6. AMRO said the South Korean economy faces headwinds, including the ongoing U.S.-China trade war, slowing global growth, and an aging population. To support the economy, it recommended the government use expansionary fiscal policies. Standard & Poor's on Tuesday also revised down its estimate for South Korea from the 2% it forecast in July to 1.8%. South Korean automaker Hyundai Motor saw its sales in the U.S. jump in the third quarter. Hyundai says it sold nearly 178,000 units for an increase of 6.7% from a year earlier. But for the month of September, compared to last year, sales were down almost 9%, meaning the end of 13 straight months of rising sales. Still, Hyundai was selling more SUV and eco-friendly models than before. It sold 27,000 SUVs in the U.S. in September, a record high for the month. Sales of the eco-friendly Ioniq model were also strong, up almost 75% on year. Koreans' boycott of Japan has led to a huge fall in the number of tours to the country. According to South Korean travel agency Mode Tour, demand for tours to Japan in September dropped by a little over 80% on year. Instead, people chose to go to Southeast Asian countries such as Malaysia, which saw an on-year increase of 50%. Meanwhile, the number of Koreans using mobile roaming services in Japan also dropped, with KT Corporation reporting Wednesday a 45% on-year decrease last month during Korea's Chuseok Thanksgiving holiday. Time now for an in-depth look at the market news at this hour. And for that, I'm joined on the line by Dr. Song Soo-young, professor of business at Chungang University. Dr. Song, thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. Yeah.
Well, the U.S. has released the weakest manufacturing data since the global financial crisis a decade ago, another sign of a possible recession on the way. What's happening there in manufacturing, and do you think fears of a slowdown are justified?
Yeah, according to the report made by the Institute for Supply Management, and the PMI index has shown that the consecutive declining of the index from 47.8% in September. So this index has been developed from the considering the new orders, production, employment, and some kind of inventory change. So which that are closely related with the production and manufacturing. Therefore, as a result, this tells us that the U.S. economy has experienced some declining aspect, this declining phase. So in the near future, the U.S. economy has suffered. Now, currently, still they grow, but they are going to suffer a little bit from the declining manufacturing performance.
Right. Well, we're looking at stocks down across the board pretty much in the U.S., Europe, Asia, yesterday and today. Is that because of the U.S. data?
Not because of that, because basically the serious problem is clearly derived from the U.S. and China trade conflict is the main cause. But currently, the most serious setback in the economic performance take place in Europe. Therefore, that could be a really threat. And also, it could decline the purchasing power in Europe and also as well in U.S. as is shown in the PMI index. The decline in manufacturing also could signal the upcoming some sluggish growth of the economy, even though currently the indicators, unemployment and other things are relatively in good shape, but still declining price such as inflation, and those could be a really serious problem that could be a harbinger of the serious problem in upcoming economic situation.
Yeah, well, speaking of falling prices, now here in Korea we have negative consumer inflation for last month, the first time that's happened. Why is that, and how long do you think this will go on? Most of all, is this actually deflation?
I don't think it's just a deflation, because the deflation, when we consider possibility of the deflation, we have to see that some other real sectors declining price, but among the real sector, particularly the real estate and the other aspect, that much declining price is serious. But however, clearly as the Federal Reserve in U.S., they have reduced the federal funds rate consecutively in July and September. I expect a further decrease of the federal funds rate in this year. Then also in Korea, I hope and I predict, I strongly believe that the economic situation calls for the further decrease of the basic interest rate by Bank of Korea. As a result, and combined with some fiscal expansionary policy, then I think even though the growth rate is decreased a little bit, but still, I don't think we are in the phase of deflation at all. So deflation is still remote, I believe.
Well, certainly, as you suggest, perhaps more pressure on the central bank when it meets this month for a rate decision. All right, Dr. Song, thank you very much for coming on. We appreciate your insights.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, Seoul is hosting an event this week looking at ways to promote global cooperation, the Global Korea Forum. Experts from the government and the private sector are attended today to talk about helping other countries through official development assistance. They also discussed ways to work together more with countries to Korea's north and its south, as President Moon's been seeking to do, countries like Russia, China, their neighbors, and Southeast Asia. Over the past couple of decades, K-pop has cemented itself as a widely popular and instantly recognizable music genre around the world. This week, there's a conference in Seoul on K-pop and its future. Lots to do there and to learn, plus some concerts on the sidelines by popular artists. Lee Min-sun reports.
The 2019 Seoul International Music Fair, South Korea's biggest K-pop fair known as MUCON, is back for an 8th year at the COEX Convention and Exhibition Center in southern Seoul. Against a backdrop of music showcases and a business marketplace, experts, music festival directors, and industry people are gathered under one roof to discuss the convergence of music, culture, and technology. One of the top agendas is K-pop as a global music trend and the future of K-pop based on a statistical analysis of the global fan base.
Lots of fans don't just like one K-pop group, but listen to a bunch of different artists outside the ones they say are their favorite. YouTube videos featuring other musicians mentioned by K-pop idol groups are being flooded with comments. So it shows K-pop is expanding to cover a broader range of Korean music. K-pop is being redefined.
In the past, the typical path for a K-pop group to achieve international fame was to become popular in South Korea first and then enter the global market based on their solid fan base at home. But many of the so-called third-generation K-pop groups are often more popular overseas than they are in South Korea. Based on an analysis of YouTube viewership, the overwhelming majority of K-pop content is consumed overseas. In fact, consumption in South Korea accounts for a mere 10% of the global total.
For third-generation idol groups, becoming successful in South Korea is not as important as before, and they are primarily targeting overseas markets. It's becoming more important to come up with a new strategy and planning that fits the new trend.
Experts also suggest a closer analysis of the K-pop fan base to better understand the current trends, as fans are no longer just passive consumers. They are increasingly becoming active producers of K-pop, reproducing content and marketing their favorite stars on their social media accounts. 이민선, 아리랑 뉴스.
Now, the subscription economy, as its name suggests, refers to a business model in which companies provide people services and products for which they make recurring payments, things like software and Netflix. This business model is gaining popularity in Korea with many different products and retail services. Kim Hae-sung reports.
31-year-old Woo Chang-gyun gets sterilized fresh blankets delivered to his house every month at a time that suits him. It includes a mattress cover, blanket, and 2 pillow covers, all for roughly $25 a month.
It takes on average 3 to 4 hours to clean and dry the blankets in laundromats, but I can get clean blankets delivered with a click of an app. It's convenient and saves me time.
The subscription economy is not a new concept. It's an extension of monthly newspaper subscriptions, but the range of products and retail services online has been growing rapidly, from Netflix streaming services and e-books to cars. Hyundai Motor Company has started one in which customers can get 3 kinds of different cars, including sedans and SUVs, for $600 a month. Nike also launched subscription services for kids aged 2 to 10 that includes 4 pairs of shoes a year.
Sock subscription boxes are also on offer, where customers can get 3 pairs of socks per month.
Most of our customers are in their 30s and 40s. They can get it delivered easily and regularly. It is also about 30% cheaper than buying 1 pair at a time.
The global market for the subscription economy is expected to grow from $420 billion in 2015 to $530 billion by 2020.
There are many online mobile platforms. The increase in the number of one-person households has led to growing demand for regular, convenient delivery services. Young people these days also emphasize experience and prefer to try out more different products before buying.
There are still legal issues that companies need to sort out, like who is responsible for insurance payments when a product is damaged. But regardless, for companies, the subscription economy helps them find a niche market as consumer behavior shifts from offline to online, and also estimate product demand and plan their supply accordingly. And that means subscription economy services are set to continue evolving and growing. Kim Hae-sung, Arirang News.
America's United Parcel service will officially launch the country's first drone delivery airline. This comes after the Federal Aviation Administration granted the company Part 135 standard certification, which allows UPS to fly drones that carry loads exceeding 25 kilograms even at night. UPS plans to start delivering packages to hospitals and then eventually expand to other industries, so it'll take some time until regular customers can get drone deliveries to their homes. And that brings us to the end of this newscast. Thank you for watching. More live news coming your way at 7 p.m. Korea time.